All right. Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining me today on the call. I know that you're all very busy, and I'm certainly appreciative that you're able to take a few minutes out today to do one of these calls. We've got a pretty good-sized crowd, not like we usually do when we're doing our dealer calls in the winter or off-season, where we can have almost 100 people on. Got a fair amount on today, and I wanted to talk to you about grub control and what the BeeSafe policy is, or what we suggest in terms of best practices for not only what product to use, but how to sell it. And there are lots of different ways to go about doing this, but grub control has to be a pretty significant part of your business, not only because it is an agronomic issue. Many of your customers will experience some issue with insect problems, grub problems, but also in terms of revenue. You should be able to sell quite a bit of preventative grub control. And back in the day, it was absolutely an enormous revenue generator for us at Lawn Dog, and we would do, I hate to say it, but I think tens of thousands of preventative grub control treatments every year. And the reason I say I hate to say it, because I don't think we were using products that I'm very much on board with right now. But there is certainly a mindset with your customers that they're afraid of grubs. There's a paranoia out there, and if you've ever seen a lawn that's been damaged by grubs, you can understand why. The paranoia or the reason to be worried about grub damage is certainly not as bad as it should be, but grub control is a big part of any lawn care program in the majority of the country, not necessarily all over the place. Different parts of the country deal with different insect issues, but the majority of our applicators are consistently dealing with grub control or grub issues throughout the course of the year. What I want to do today is basically go over a few things, and I'm going to try to be quick. I know that I say that all the time, and most of you are laughing because there's no real such thing as quick with me. But I want to talk about, anyways, in terms of quick, I certainly want to keep it less than a half an hour. If you have any questions, as always, type them into the questions panel there. Because there's more than a few people on the call, I'm not going to unmute everybody. Everybody is muted right now because when I unmute people, we get some feedback, and it's difficult for all of us. So real quick, what is a grub? Grub is the beginning phase of a Japanese beetle, a European chafer beetle, or any beetle that you see flying around probably right now. Beetles will mate in June and July and into August. Those beetles will then lay their eggs in July or August, and the timing is a little bit different, again, depending on where you are in the country. But if you're in the upper Midwest, the Midwest, or the Northeast and down to the Mid-Atlantic, it's a situation where they're mating right around now. They'll lay their eggs in August, and you'll begin to see damage in some places as early as the middle of August. And that can continue all the way through November at times. So beetles fly around, mate right now. They lay their eggs in the turf. Those eggs hatch at the end of the summer and the fall. Those eggs, after they hatch, the grubs surface, begin to feed on the root system of the lawn. They go through several different instars. From basically what is a baby to an adult. And as the grub continues to age, the exoskeleton of the grub, as it goes through its metamorphosis in phases and instars, it becomes much more difficult to control because the exoskeleton becomes harder. It's difficult to get any product or chemical onto it to basically poison it. And it's also their feeding habits decrease as they age a little bit too. So a young grub that is just hatched, newly hatched, and begun to feed on turf roots is going to feed much more aggressively than an adult grub. So as we reach the end of the year, the end of the fall and winter begins, the grub will begin to sense temperature changes. It will go down into the ground where it will overwinter, and then it will surface again in the springtime. It'll come up. Grubs don't feed in the spring. Well, they go through a very, very short and a very, very minimal feeding period. So grubs are very difficult to control in the spring for a couple reasons. One, like I mentioned, they're adult grubs. Their exoskeleton is mature. It's difficult to get anything on them or to absorb into them. And when I say exoskeleton, I mean like the shell of the grub. They're also finished feeding, so they're not actually ingesting anything. So if you put the systemic down where they're going to ingest the product, it's not going to work in the springtime because they're not eating anything, except for a very brief, short period of time. Those grubs then complete the metamorphosis and then they pupate into a beetle, and the whole process starts again. So over the years, grubs have created all kinds of problems for lawn care people, golf course people, create chaos and paranoia throughout. And what lawn care services have done is they've harnessed the ability to apply a preventative control for a cost to help their customers feel at ease. So what I want to do today is talk about the product that we'll be using at BeeSafe. I want to go over it in relative detail. Then I want to go over a couple other things as to why you should use Grandevo, how much it costs, what you should charge, how you should sell it. I want to try to cover all those things in a short period of time. So let's get started with what actually Grandevo is. It's a new product that's come out this year. It's distributed by Engage Agro, the same company that we sell Fiesta weed control for. They don't manufacture the product. It's manufactured by a much larger company that creates other environmentally friendly pesticides. What I like about Grandevo is that it comes with science behind it. It comes with actual demonstrated testing. It's not just a product that somebody said, hey, I think this might work, let's try it. This is a very professional, a very good situation where they ran tests, they've got data, all kinds of reason to use it. You know what I'm going to do right now is I'm just basically going to read from this spec sheet. This is a spec sheet from Engage Agro for Grandevo, and I think that's probably the most effective way to do it. It's not a very long document, so I'm just going to read it. Grandevo PTO is an advanced cross-spectrum insecticide that offers protection against chewing and sucking insects and mites. Its complex actions on pests, oral toxicity, reduced reproduction, and repellency in up to 14 days of residual control gives golf course superintendents, lawn care professionals, nurseries, and greenhouses a powerful new tool to strengthen their pest management strategies. Grandevo PTO provides performance and flexibility for control of chinch bugs, sod webworms, chafers, cutworms, and other damaging pests and turf grass. In woody and herbaceous ornamentals, it controls aphids, mites, numerous, I don't know how to say that, species, thrips, whiteflies, and many other types of insects. So what we've got here is a control product that is a broad spectrum control product. We're not talking about having to basically focus in on one particular insect, whereas in lawn care, chemical lawn care, we might use one product to take care of subsurface feeding insects. We might use another product to take care of surface feeding insects, which are piercing and sucking like chinch bugs. So this is a wide spectrum product that will take care of a lot of different issues for it. Ideal for golf courses, residential lawns, commercial turf, landscapes, and greenhouse. Grandevo PTO gives you benefits that add value to your operations and lawn care service. Grandevo PTO allows you to offer a premium spray program to environmentally minded customers. That's every single one of your customers, guys. No chemical smell to upset sensitive customers or players. I can remember back in the day when we would use things like Dursban or even Orthene or all kinds of weird stuff that you could literally smell blocks and blocks away. With a low risk to developing resistance, using Grandevo PTO, using it in a rotation or in a tank mix can help extend the effective life of higher risk insecticides. Grandivo PTO has been shown to cause no harm to beneficial insects or honeybees, which is a big deal for us. That's exactly this is exactly the type of product that we want to use, because it's not going to cause harm to beneficials. By that, we're talking about things like bees. We're talking about things like other, ladybugs or any worms. But most importantly, we're talking about biology. Many of the chemical insecticides will really wipe out your soil biology. And that's not what we want to do. Everything we do revolves around generating soil biology. So let's continue to read a couple more things here. Features: cross-spectrum protection against mites and chewing and sucking insects. If you've got a tree and shrub program, this will work there. Complex mode of action, easy on beneficials, 4-hour re-entry, 0-day PHI. I'm not even sure what that means. I think it probably is something to do with days to harvest. I don't know what PHI stands for. Tolerance exempt. What that means is that many insecticides have been found to create a situation where the insects you're trying to control become basically tolerant to certain levels of the chemical. Minimal PPE, no buffer required for spray applications, approved for field and greenhouse applications, no limit on the number of allowed applications per year. Here are some examples of uses and pests, labeled pests: commercial turfgrass, recreational turfgrass, that's us, residential ornamentals, big trees, small shrubs. Partial list of insects that are controlled: aphids, armyworms, budworms, caterpillars, chinch bugs, cutworms, leaf hoppers, leaf rollers, loopers, thrips, webworms, and white grubs. Best use recommendations: control of foliage, feeding pests of turf, including chinch bugs, leaf hoppers, sod webworms, armyworms, cutworms. This is highly effective against newly hatched larvae and nymphs of targeted species, and significantly reduces the reproductive capabilities of many adult sucking pests. Apply Grandivo at 0.75 to 1.5 ounces per 1,000 square feet in a minimum of 100 gallons of water per acre. When infestations are first observed, targeting newly hatched small larvae and nymphs, additional applications may be necessary on a 7 to 14-day interval. This is more for again, flight patterns of armyworms, cutworms, sod webworms. When we talk about grubs, here we go. Control of soil-dwelling pests, including European, northern and southern masked chafer. I know that it's labeled for Japanese beetles, oriental beetles. Grandivo PTO must be applied following egg hatch of targeted pests. The need for an application can be based upon historical monitoring of the site, previous records or experiences, or current adult beetle monitoring. Optimum control will be achieved when applications are followed by rainfall or sufficient irrigation to move the active ingredient through the thatch. Apply Grandivo at 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet in 100 gallons of water following egg hatch or when infestations are first noted. If rainfall is not expected within 24 hours, irrigate as soon as practical. And this is common of all insect controls that you need to move down through the thatch. You need to water it to get it down to where the grubs are. So this is a great choice to use as a preventative grub control. And when I say preventative grub control, it's a little bit different than something that you might be using in a chemical program, because a chemical acts as a systemic control. When I say a preventative, what I'm basically trying to say is it's a curative control presented as a preventative. So a preventative systemic control like merit or the other, imidacloprid becomes part of the tissue of the plant when you apply it. And then when the grubs feed on the roots, it creates a situation, I think, where the insect molts too quickly and it will die. This is actually acting as a curative, not as a systemic. So the timing is important. You have to make sure that you time it appropriately. And again, it talks about historical data, visual impact. If the grubs have begun to feed and you can see them, you need to apply it. But you want to try to get it applied after hatch, but before they've moved into the second instar. So depending on where exactly you are, that's usually from the middle of August. You can go all the way through October at some point. So here's some more testing, some more information about the efficacy of it. This is on southern mass chafer beetles, white grubs, Grandivo at 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet compared to Dilox at 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. You've got better results than Dilox. Same thing down here when we're talking about southern mass chafer white grubs. Grandivo at 8 ounces per 1,000 square feet, 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet, and Dilox an untreated control. So this is a product that's going to work. It's absolutely going to work. We've got the data behind it. We've got testing behind it, and it's manufactured by a legitimate, significant company called Marone Bioinnovation. So I'm very excited to use this. So with that being said, let's move on. I'm going to close this out. I want to talk about a couple other things. Why you should use Grandivo. Excuse my my low-tech Word document here, but we're amongst friends, right? So why should we use Grandivo as opposed to any other chemical? A lot of companies will use Dilox. Dilox is an organophosphate. Dilox is one of the last remaining organophosphates that you can buy. And I don't want to get going on what that actually means, but it doesn't mean good things. It's a classification of chemical that's been found to cause issues with the central nervous system of kids, and that's terrible. That's not good. That's the way the product works. It attacks the central nervous system of the insect. The majority of organophosphates were taken off the market in 2002 as a result of the FQPA, the Food Quality Protection Act, meaning that the risk associated with these classification of chemicals outweighed the benefit. So most of them were pulled. If you've been in chemical lawn care, you have Dilox, you know, probably in your pockets at times. You were exposed to it quite a bit. And I can see a couple guys on here have been in the business for a while and know exactly what I'm talking about. Dilox works. It kills grubs really good. It's not good for you. A lot of people have said that Dilox is becoming not as effective because the grubs are becoming resistant to it. So what about merit, imidacloprid, or with classification of neonicotinoids? That's banned just about everywhere else on the planet. The United States is one of the last remaining places on Earth where it's okay to use neonicotinoids to control insects because it's become clear that they have a really, really negative effect on pollinators. And for those of you who've used that before, it's basically because it's ubiquitous. You apply merit to the turf, or you apply merit or other, you know, the trade names change now too, and since the patent has been gone. On trees, anywhere, you know, bees pollinate. So if you apply merit to the lawn, it becomes part of the tissue of the grass. If you've got clover and bees begin to pollinate with the clover, they absorb the product, and what happens is that they lose track of where they are, and they fail to return to their hives. It's called colony collapse disorder. And bee populations have literally been reduced. You know, I'm not a scientist, I only know what I read, but by 90%, and without bees, we're bumming. I don't know if any of you guys saw this thing, the Oregon bee kill that happened just this year in June in Oregon. 50,000 bees, 50,000 bees were killed, and they counted them, I guess. But in a Target parking lot in Oregon, landscape company was doing an application on some linden trees to control aphids, and they were using a product called Safari, which is a neonicotinoid. And it killed 50,000 bees in this one plaza. So I don't want to get into this too much, but I don't think I want to use products that have the potential to do that, especially when there are products that will allow me to control the same thing without any speculation as to what type of issues it's going to cost. So I found this when I was looking for an article just to bring up, but if you're using any of these products, this is the active ingredient. These are the trade names for the active ingredient that was associated with killing those bees. So real quick, professional use products here, Safari, Xylem, Alpine, homeowner products here. Google it, but I think it's probably safe to say you should probably not use those. So why should we use Grandevo? Because a lot of these chemical insect controls are not as effective as they once were, and I can come up with a million reasons as to why you shouldn't use them. Now, how about organic controls? There's other options that we've used in the past that I didn't put up here, but cedar oil. Cedar oil is labeled for grubs, and I've had some decent results with it. But what I found is that it doesn't travel very well through the thatch. In order to get the type of active ingredient down into the rhizosphere, the amount of product that you need to use and then irrigate immediately after is difficult to get down through the thatch. Certain chemicals or certain products travel vertically better than others, and I found that cedar oil doesn't travel very well. How about beneficial nematodes? A lot of you guys have probably used nematodes in the past to deal with grubs, and that's what we've recommended in the past. The timing of the treatment is difficult, and there are so many factors that go into the efficacy of it that it's hard to get it just right. It has to be irrigated significantly. If it's super sunny out, it's not going to work. The nematodes will be damaged by the sun. You always the labels usually say you should apply the product in the early morning or late afternoon, and or when it's raining. And most of us can't do that. That's why I'm excited about Grandevo. I think it's going to be a very effective product for what we're trying to do. There are two ways for you to use Grandevo in your lawn care program. One, as a preventative. As a preventative, what you do is you charge your customers in advance to perform a blanket application of grub control, and you guarantee season-long control. That's what I want to talk about mostly today. And I'm already at 23 minutes past the hour, and I am clearly not going to make it in less than 30. As a curative, you apply the product when you notice that the grubs are actively feeding on lawns and doing damage. Typically, your customer will not expect to have to pay for this added product. They hire you to make sure that their lawns aren't damaged. And that's why I think it's very, very important that you sell grub control as a preventative, because it gives your customers peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind that you're not going to lose a lawn to grubs, and you're not going to have to be running around spraying Grandevo or Dialox or anything else in areas that have been damaged by grubs. And it's a bad situation. There are certain years where it's worse than others, and I can remember, man, it was a long time ago now, maybe 15 years ago, down in Metro West in the Framingham, Massachusetts area, where there were certain neighborhoods where you would drive through and it looked like a bomb went off. The scrubs had destroyed everything. There are certain areas up in southern Maine where that's still happening, in Scarborough, Maine, and Portland, Maine. So it's definitely worth it to try to sell Grandevo as a preventative application. Again, a preventative application is when you charge your customers in advance to perform a blanket application of grub control, and you guarantee season-long grub control. Here's where I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. I know you guys got things to do. What's the pricing? How much does Grandevo cost? It is a little bit more expensive than your chemical products. It's a little bit more expensive than cedar oil, although that's depending on the rate at which you need to apply cedar oil. And nematodes, who knows whether that works or not. So Grandevo is going to come to you in cases that include 6 5-pound bags. So this is a water-soluble packet. It's something that you put in your tank. You spray it as a liquid, but it isn't a liquid. It's sort of a powder. You want to apply it at the rate of 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet. So one bag will treat 20,000 square feet. You want to mix that appropriately. Like everything else, the more volume of water you get, the better. So 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet is what we suggest. I can see you going down to 1.5 gallons, which is what most people do, and that's okay. So a case of this product is going to treat 120,000 square feet. Here's your pricing. A case of 6 5-pound bags, which is 30 pounds, costs $925. We're going to sell that also and cut in half. A half a case, or 15 pounds, will cost $475. Your product cost is going to be roughly $7.70 per 1,000 square feet. This is an important number when you determine what your pricing structure is going to be. So this is an expensive product. It's not cheap, but the benefits that we just talked about in terms of replacing chemical products, talking about how it's not going to impact beneficials, this is a product that's worth it. So I don't recommend, quadrupling the cost per 1,000 square feet, but you need to make money on it. You certainly don't want to lose money. Your margin might just be a little bit tighter than with some of the other products. So when you're determining what your price list is, keep that in mind. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I was going to talk about pricing. How to sell preventative grub control. Let me stop for a second. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody's typed anything yet into the questions panel. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and type it in there. We're dealing with a sort of simple situation here. So if there are no questions, that's okay. We'll keep going on and we'll get you guys out of here. How to sell preventative grub control. 2 things. Set a goal, make it happen. You have to have a goal. And here I go taking out this document again. Oh, yeah, this one that we break out all the time in the springtime when we're doing our planning. Well, now you're seeing why doing our planning is so important. So this is one, obviously your business is different. No businesses are the same, but when you're doing your planning, you're trying to figure out what your gross sales are going to be. You do your cancel sales, new count, revenue per customer, whatever. You budget your optionals and your supplementals. In this case, grub control, we budgeted $25,272 in preventative grub control. This is for a company that has 432 lawn care customers. Some of you have more, some of you have a lot more, some of you are a little bit smaller, have less. But this number right here is important, 13%. 13% of your gross round revenue sales should turn into grub control. So I always budget my supplementals based on historical data, and I know if I'm doing $194,400 in round revenue, I multiply that times 13%. That's about what my grub control goal should be. So check your round revenue. Find out how much you're projected to do in round revenue. Multiply that times 13%. That's your grub control goal. Look at it. It is literally the most, it's your most successful supplemental sale. And in this case, with a business that's doing less than $200,000, you can upsell $25,000 in grub control. This is why I thought we should spend some time talking about this, because if you're not taking advantage of selling preventative grub control, you're leaving it on the table. You're absolutely leaving it on the table. It's a service that your customers want. We have a product that works. We have a lot of reasons to use this particular product, and you're going to bill some significant dollars doing it. So how are we going to upsell it to our customers? Well, in the past, we've always done things like leave behinds, right? We always have things that whenever you do an application, you leave. There's Real Green, for instance, has collateral that it's a big nasty looking grub, and you scare your customers into buying it. You should do that. You should always do leave behinds through communication with your customers. Your lawn technicians or you should always be speaking and identify the issues that you have with that your customers have with certain things. Upselling is so important, and getting to know your customers. It's just not going to happen on its own, guys. You have to do something to make it happen. So this is an additional way that I absolutely implore you to sell some supplementals. If you've got a gigantic business, if you've got 15,000 customers, this method is going to be a little bit tedious. But if you're smaller or mid-sized, it's certainly worth the effort. So I'm in my lawn quote. I'm in my lawn quote back end of my fake company that I use for demonstration purposes here, LawnMark Plus. So almost all you guys have been using My Lawn Quote to create new sales, to sell supplementals, but in this case, you absolutely have to use it to be able to make your upsell with Preventative Grub Control. So I'll go through the whole process real quick. You have to add Preventative Grub Control as a service, first of all. So when you click on My Services here, you have to have Grub Preventative as a service. Put in a basic description of what you're doing. In this case, grubs are one of the most troubling insects to turf in the Northeast. The best method for controlling grubs is to apply a preventative product before the grubs begin feeding in late summer. I think I'd probably change the wording of that a little bit. I should have looked at this before I jumped on here. Purchasing our grub proofing service guarantees that your lawn will stay healthy and free from grub damage. I'd change the reference to a season because you're going to want to sell this all the way through fall, so I'd probably take that out. You can put whatever you want here. Your own language is important. Make it your own, like they say on American Idol. Show this to customers, yes, sort order, blah, blah, blah. Pricing, this is your price list. Set it up as a dynamic price in 1,000 square foot increments. There's one visit. You can offer a 10% prepaid discount. You can offer no % prepaid discount. You do whatever you want, obviously. Minimum square footage, no. Minimum price, no. And this is where you build in your pricing. So in here, and hopefully this works, but so 0 to 5,000 square feet, I've got $49 per application. And we figured that our product cost was, what I'd say, seven something. $7.70. So let's just make sure we're profitable here. On a 5,000 square foot lawn, and you really shouldn't have anything less than that, even if it is really. On a 5,000 square foot lawn, you're charging $49, 770 times 5, $38. So you know what, I'd probably bump that up a little bit, charge a little bit more. You all know your market better than I do. If you're coming in low and hard, you want to make lots of sales and lower your margin, that's fine. If you want to make it a real premium service, you can too. With grub control, people typically expect to pay a little bit more. We've got a couple companies, actually one is getting triple app cost. So if you're charging your regular 5,000 square foot lawn is $50 per app, he's charging $150 for grub control. So do what you want. I would tend to keep it not quite that high. A double app would be okay. Back when we first started selling Merit as preventative grub control, we just did 2 times an app cost, and that might be a good rule of thumb too. However you want to set it up, it's up to you. So you get it set up here, which probably most of you guys already do, and then make sure you have an email template set up. So your email template is what your MLQ defaults to be able to, every time you send out a quote. So I've got a preventative grub control template set up here. It says, hello, it looks like this year is shaping up to be a very difficult one for grub damage. You probably noticed beetles around your lawn and garden lately, and those beetles are about to lay their eggs in your turf. Shortly thereafter, those eggs will hatch and turn into very hungry grubs that will do damage to your lawn if left untreated. A lot of you guys already got your own verbiage and how you work on pushing these kind of services, talking about grubs. You can put whatever you want here. So, and for most of you, I'm probably not telling you something you don't already know, but I want to go over it again. So I've got my template set up. I've got my service set up. I've got my pricing built in. Now I'm going to send out estimates. So every time at the conclusion of every day, or however you want to do it, if you want to, if you do 10 apps in a day, at the end of the day you want to sit down and send out 10 upsell emails, that's fine. Or if you want to have an employee sit down with your entire customer base and go through the whole thing, it's completely up to you. But let's just do it one at a time a little bit here. So I'm going to click on Create New Quote. I'm going to use my Preventative Grub Control template. It's defaulting to come from LawnMark Plus Residential because that's what I have this named in my lawn quote. My subject, let's do grub damage. Customer name is me. I'm going to put in my email address. You want to know what else? Sometimes you don't have to go through this because over here in your contact list, you should already have all of your customers. If you don't already have all your customers in there, you can upload it. Upload them using an Excel spreadsheet. So for those of you who haven't gone that far, upload all of your customers in here, and then you just basically search for each one, so you don't have to fill out all of the information. Would you like to calculate prices? Yes, based on square footage. I'm going to select Grub Preventative. Allow these services a la carte. That doesn't matter because I'm only doing one at a time. Lawn size, I forgot to put that in. Let's call it a 5,000 square foot lawn. We don't have any premiums on here. We don't have any additional discounts. I'm going to give my customer the choice to prepay me right now, or I'm going to give them the choice to be billed upon completion. So basically what I'm doing is I'm sending out an estimate to every one of my customers suggesting that they buy preventative grub control. And it's very, very simple. So I just sent an estimate to myself as if I were a customer. And typically you'll have a faster internet connection than this. If you don't have a faster internet connection than this, then you're in trouble. It's going to take you forever to do a bunch of them. So typically, usually it will go a lot faster than this, but it's making me look silly. There it goes. Send to customer. You can test it to send it to yourself too, just to see what it looks like. So it's been sent. Here's my email over here. All right, good. It showed up that fast. So now I'm acting as the customer. I've got an email from my lawn care company. It says grub damage. I'm like, whoa, I don't want any grub damage. I open it up. Here's the template that we put in there. It looks like this is shaping up to be difficult for grubs. Click here to view your quote. Customer opens it up. Says, man, how much is this going to cost? Here it is right here, $49, one visit. I've got it set up for a 10% discount, prepaid discount. And they have the opportunity to pay you right now, or they have the opportunity to sign up and be billed upon completion. So I can't stress enough to you guys. I know that might have taken a couple of minutes. This is making sales to your existing customers. No other source of sales or revenue is more important than your existing customers. You should be doing this all year with every single service that you offer, especially with preventative grub control, because every one of your customers loses sleep over grub damage. And you now have a product, an exceptional product, to be able to provide them with a solution. Like, it's the easiest sale you'll ever make. It's automated. So a combination of, leave behind, your technicians talking to your customers, and this automation, you should blow this number out of the water. You should absolutely blow this number out of the water. That's a lot of money. So again, basically what the customer has the ability to do now is they can click continue. They go through the PayPal process. It's money in your bank, or they go through the process and just hit build upon completion. Terms and conditions, I agree. You've got to probably have built your terms and conditions in already, and it processes it. It emails you a receipt. It's there already. There it is. Thank you very much. This is an automated process to get new sales to existing customers. Guys, you have to do this. You absolutely have to do this. What you can do later on, too, is do the same thing with aeration and seeding and aeration. Every service that you offer, you need to maximize your sales through your existing customer base. So that's how it works. A couple questions in here, and I think I answered most of them as I went. And I encourage you to ask more right now if you need to. The rate. I thought I talked about the rate. The rate is 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet, and how do we figure that out? Well, it's a solid, so there are 16 ounces in a pound. And we've determined, especially using the Adios product, and I don't want to talk about that right now, and call me if you want to talk about Adios, but the 2 cups, two cups equal a pound to mix it in your tank. Sorry, I was reading questions. So roughly 4 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Yes, you want to apply it as a preventative, but if you miss it, here's the question. If you miss it as a preventative, it will work as a curative. But remember, people are not going to want to pay you to apply anything to their lawn when you've got damage, because it's your responsibility. I mean, there are times when you might be able to get something from them, but yeah, sometimes I don't want to go down that road. Any other questions, guys? So it is just review real quick. We should use Grandivo because it's the right product. It's going to work. It's effective. It's a great replacement for not only chemical controls, but for organic controls that haven't been that user-friendly. We want to sell it as a preventative. You may end up having to use it as a curative. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how you're going to sell it. If I went through the MLQ thing too fast, call me, and we can go over it again. I know a lot of you are using MLQ to make sales and grow your business, but this is one that you absolutely have to do. 42 minutes. I did it. I did not go beyond 45, and I'm nowhere near an hour. Any other questions, guys? All right. I'm going to wrap up. Thank you. It was good seeing some of you guys. I can see that you're still alive. It's been a tough year, no doubt, with weather conditions. If you've got crabgrass, trust me, you are not alone. If you've got crabgrass and you need to either take it out on somebody or cry on somebody's shoulder, my phone number is 603-294-1766. Many of you already have done so. And then I, in turn, call somebody else and cry on their shoulder. But we'll get through the summer of crabgrass and weeds. People have short memories. Focus on beginning to fertilize. We want to start getting some fertilizer into the program, either the 702 or some of you are using the 2000. We want to get the turf back in good shape because lawn care customers have short memories. So no other questions. I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, guys. I look forward to talking to you again, and we'll do another one of these in another month or so. Have a good afternoon.